Gary Redknapp here. You're listening to a proper podcast. It's the Alan Hudson podcast. It's proper football, proper talk.
Well, hello again. Thanks for joining us on the Alan Hudson podcast. It's great to have you on board. We've got another fantastic guest joining us today to talk about and reminisce about his great career and hopefully give us a few anecdotes of what went on behind the scenes. But before we introduce him, it's Muzzy Izzet, by the way, ex-Chelsea, ex-Birmingham, ex-Leicester City. But before we introduce Muzzy, Alan's got a few words to say about subscription. So over to you, Alan.
Yeah, if you've not subscribed, just go on YouTube and please subscribe. I've been watching YouTube this morning and subscribed onto a couple of other people. So if I can do it for them, you can do it for us. I mean, you wouldn't see people like Muzzy. Who talks about Muzzy a day at Chelsea? It's all about Zola, isn't it? This is a man. He's a man, isn't he? Anyway, we'll go into that.
Well, welcome, as we said, Muzzy. Welcome to the show. I can see lots of greenery in the background. Where are you?
I'm in a nice little park not far from my house in Leicester. I was on my way back from, I run a college now, so I just thought I'd just pull over. It's a nice sunny day, so sit outside and do the interview from outside.
Quite right. I'd have done that in the garden if I'd have known, Muzz. I'd do the next one in the garden. I've got a great big garden out there, but it ain't mine.
Is you're now running the academy with Steve Walsh?
So I've started it about 13, 14 years ago. And basically what it is, it's a post-16 academy. So kids leave school now. They have to leave school at 16 after they've done their GCSEs. But they have to stay in education for another 2 years. So we're basically a college. But we're an independent college. But what we've done alongside it is we've bolted a football programme alongside the education programme. So lads turn up, they'll do their education, they'll do their football every day of the week. They'll have matches on a Wednesday against other colleges or schools or whatever. We're in a league, we're in cups. The idea was to try and find a couple of gems and see if we can sort of feed them back into the pro game. But I think nowadays with the scouting system, and it's so vast, they tend not to really miss any players these days. You might get the odd player, and we have sent players down to clubs, but none of them have gone on to become like pros or anything. It's getting harder.
But the young kids today, Maz, they want to go to the football club, don't they? They want to, and their parents want them to go there, which is wrong.
Well, if you've always been in the system, which I would imagine a lot of these kids from a early age now they go to pro clubs at 7s and 8s and 9s years of age. I think they get not brainwashed, but I think the parents see it as that this is the only way forward. Instead of sort of saying to them sometimes, you know what, being in a pro academy adds pressure, sometimes some players develop later than others. Some players don't mature till later on in life. But I think the pressure comes from the parents these days. I think there's a lot of pressure on parents, and I think they're trying to push their lads or girls now into the pro game and keep them in it. And businesses like us, we tend not to get as many kids these days.
Quite right, mate. You're 100 million% right. I mean, I remember when we had our coaching school, me, Shanksy, Frank Worthington and people like that, we ran a school up in Allsage and we had the kids and it was all about having fun.
Yeah.
But, getting Frank out on the ball and all that and working on the technique and, your first touch and this and that, and enjoy it. And they had a ball, and the parents were happy. But it's, as you say, the most important thing about what you just said is some kids develop later on. It's when I go in the Chelsea first team at 17, 18, I weren't ready, mate. I didn't think, and you get stronger, don't you? And I would imagine you was a bit like that.
Yeah, did it take you a couple of years before you found your feet in the first team then, Al? Or did you find your feet straight away?
I think it was a little bit of no, we got to the cup final first. We won the cup final first year. I got in the World Cup my first year, but I still weren't the player that I become.
No.
It wasn't until I moved to Stoke and I was kind of you know, I could play the role that I wanted to play, and he wanted me to play, and the one I was brought up to play.
Yeah.
Whereas at Chelsea, I was doing the role that I was getting running around for other people, you know.
Yeah, I understand what you mean, mate. It's like you go from grassroots football, playing over the park with your mates, then you go into a professional environment, and depending on what the first team are playing and what the coaching system's all about, you have to tend to adapt your game to whatever suits the club you're at the time.
Absolutely.
And when I was at Chelsea, I think the pathway through at Chelsea at that time was quite difficult. There's a lot of players my age and a little bit older in my position. And back then, we was only playing like a 4-4-2. So you only had 2 players in the middle of the park that you could pick from, you know. So out of 10 midfield players, only 2 can play. So I spoke to Glenn Oddle and asked him, look, I need some. I was on the cusp of I was on the bench a few times at Chelsea, but I wanted to. It's like anything. You want to play first team. You want to play football, don't you? So I asked him if I could go out on loan, and within the next sort of 3 or 4 weeks, I was at Leicester and I was in their first team. And even then, I was in their first team. I found it. I was doing a lot of box to box, that type of thing, and I had to adapt to playing that system because I wasn't that type of player. I wasn't a box to box midfield player as such. But I had to develop to be that player because I was at a team that was sort of struggling, you know, that used to have to fight for every point you got.
Well, I think although you say you weren't that type of player, I weren't that type of player, but I think it's good to have that in your locker.
Yeah, so I think
You know?
I went there and became more of a box-to-box footballer, basically.
Yeah.
And back then, that was what midfielders had to be. Everyone wanted to. Well, most clubs played with them sort of midfielders. One that used to get forward and try and get on the end of things, and one that used to sit there and hold. You know what I mean? And sort of make the play. So I tried to adapt my game to be able to do both. That was basically, and that gives you a bit more longevity that you can play in a couple of different roles. You know?
Yeah. I'm just smiling because I was just thinking about must be a year ago now. I went in the bank down the King's Road. I bumped into Martin O'Neill.
Oh wow!
And spoke about a couple of things, you know. And he said, have a selfie done with me. He went, he's crackers, isn't he?
Yeah, he is crackers, that boy. Yeah.
Anyway, he said, have a selfie. This is in the HSBC. So I had a selfie where he said, I love doing all this and blah, blah, blah. I'll give him my number. He said, I'll get in touch. It never did. My Alan sent him a message and he said, you let me dad down, blah, blah, blah. But the reason I mentioned it is it reminds me of the day me, Johnny, and your dad came to a game at the Bridge when you played for Leicester. And we're upstairs. Anyway, you won. You were man of the match for me. You were the best player on the field. You won 2-0. You got the first goal, didn't you?
Yeah, header, I think it was.
Header, yeah, you got a header. And then Colin Morse come on and got the second of it.
That's right, yeah.
Stan come on. But it wasn't so much the game. I thought you were terrific because I hadn't really seen you play too much, you know, around. And I thought you were out. I know that was when I realised why Chelsea let you go, but that's another question. But we're upstairs afterwards and we're having a drink and Lily comes up, Lily Savage. He's sitting there and you've turned around, you've gone there. Savage was going on about Dennis Wise. Every time we clashed and we went on the floor, Dennis Wise pinched him.
Yeah, he used to do that to me as well.
Oh, did he? Yeah. So that was part of his game, wasn't it? To get you out.
It was a bloody nightmare. Absolute nightmare to play against. I was actually his apprentice coming through the system. I used to clean Wise's boots. I used to do his boots, Andy Townsend's boots, and Steve Clark's boots. So when I eventually left and came back to the Bridge, Dennis Wise was there, and every time you sort of got anywhere near it, he'd be stepping on your toes, he'd be pinching the side of you, making out he's cuddling you, but he grew his fingernails. He was an absolute nightmare.
All little people are, mate.
I know, little Jack Russell, wasn't he?
But we also went on to, you turned around and went, but being out till 4 o'clock in the morning before the game. I say, don't you know it was that game or another game? And I went to you. I said, Muzz, well, what would he say, the manager? He said, you said he was with us.
Yeah, well, he was a type he was a type of manager that encouraged you going out and creating a team spirit. You know, he was
That was his Cluffy thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was massively into that. He was he'd promote it. You know, if a couple of bad results, he'd go, right, come on, let's go and have a couple of beers somewhere. Even when we played, even when it was at Wembley, I think it was a League Cup final, I can't remember. Before, you know, the night before, let's go down to the bar, have a couple of beers, relax. He was into trying to keep the players nice and relaxed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't worry about the occasion yet. Just go out there and play your football. And if a couple of beers helped you relax, he was all for it. You know?
Yeah.
Looking back at your career, Muzzy, would you describe Martin as a bit of a mentor for you?
He was he helped me so much with my career because he gave me the opportunity to play in the first team and develop. You know, like I say, I got into the first team. I reckon I was about just 19, 20 or something like that. And I was a late developer. You know, I was tiny, and even playing in the first team at Leicester, I still wasn't the player that I sort of became at 26, 27. I was a long way off it. I sort of, for the first few years, you get through on adrenaline and hunger and fight and everything else. But then as you start developing, you start actually slowing yourself down a bit and understanding what the game's about. And it ain't about running here, there and everywhere. It's actually using your brain a little bit more.
Absolutely.
And once I started getting the hang of that, football became easier. Not, you know, it wasn't easy, but it became easier to play because you knew what you could do. You knew that you played yourself into the game slowly and you grew into a game instead of trying to chase the game.
Yeah, it's interesting that our play, you know, it's when we're talking about what we're talking about, it's like Chelsea a little bit letting De Bruyne go at a certain age, you know, and it's all right whether it was Marino or not. You know, you got to understand that these players, you know, I don't get it. I really don't get it that things like that. You know, you must see that these players are going to be a player.
Yeah,
my father knew all along. He used to say when I was 12, 13, 14, and I couldn't get into Fulham, I was too small. He used to say, you wait till you grow. Don't worry about football now. Just go and enjoy it. When you fulfill yourself, because I was tight like you, I was a little bit like that. And then I grew into myself, got stronger, built myself up fitness, and I became a player. But that wasn't until I was about 22, maybe, 23, when I went to Stoke.
Yeah.
I was just, as I say, I was like a milkman at Chelsea. I just collected everything and give it to the rest of the lads, you know. But,
it's strange how it works, and it's like I said, it's once you sort of you need the manager to believe in you as well. You need the manager to go, look, I can see this in you. We was just not unfortunate. We was a team of misfits, if you like, Leicester. So we had players from Crewe. I was from Chelsea reserves. We had players from Oxford, and he amalgamated this all together and went, listen, we're going to build our game on team spirit, and we're going to create that. We're going to be organised. We're going to be hard to play against, and we've got enough quality in the team, as in a few of us, that we can create and score goals. And if we can do that, we should be okay, as long as we sort of work hard and with the fitness is good and we don't get too many injuries, because we didn't have a big squad neither. So we had to make sure we was always fit. And I think that's what Martin he tried to keep it as simple as possible. He wouldn't put someone on who was a left footer on the right. He'd just keep everything. You're left-sided midfielder. You're left-footed. You play on the left. You're a big number 9. You play centre forward. You know what I mean? He made it so easy for you that you didn't have to go out on the pitch and think. And I think that's what he got from Clough.
Well, I think it's It's called simplifying the game, isn't it? Keep everything simple. Do what you're good at. Today, I mean, I believe that in the present day, Man City, I think he's overcome. It might look good. They might have 1,000 passes, but it's complicated. They don't do what becomes natural. They're playing the Guardiola way instead of playing their way. They ruin Grealish.
Yeah, I don't know if you agree, but I can barely watch football these days. How negative and how boring it can be with the passing and the possession-based stats and everything
I
else.
agree.
I sit there sometimes, and when I retired, Leicester City used to have a great atmosphere. When they won the league that season, the atmosphere over there was electric. And for that season, they was the best team in that league. They had four. They had four, in my opinion, world-class players for that year. They had Vardy, they had Mahrez, they had Kante, and the goalkeeper. Four of them were brilliant. And the others were all built around them. But they played every single week. They didn't have a big squad, but what they did was they played to the strength. So they went, right, get the ball to Mahrez, because he's brilliant on the ball. Kante used to work like he used to be like two midfielders into one. And when we get the ball, can we hit Jamie Vardy nice and quick over the top, use his pace and get on the end of things? And that was their system. That was it. That was all they did. They done nothing else. The back four sat there, made sure that they didn't get too far forward, and they were solid. And that's how they played. That's how they won the league. But they was great to watch because they got it, and as soon as they got their head up, Vardy made a run, and the ball went. Do you know what I mean? Nowadays, if you're a centre forward, the ball goes left, it goes right, it goes back, it goes sideways, it goes back, and then all of a sudden now the goalkeeper's got to be a footballer. And I'm like, what are we watching here? Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely, and every team's playing the same, more or less. And it's like, God, you're paying money to watch this.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
That's my opinion, anyway.
No, you're bang on, mate. I mean, I can't watch Man City. They do. I think anyone can do what they do, to tell the truth. I mean, they've apart from, I think they kind of changed their style when David Silva left. David Silva was a great player for them. He was different. He wouldn't go sideways.
No, he'd get his head up. He'd get his head up and play right forward.
He'd go forward, and it's crept into the game, and it's crept into people now on bringing the kids up playing that way.
See Maresco now at Chelsea. He at Leicester. He was so negative in the way he played, and so I don't know what he's like over there now, but oh God, it was keeping the ball for the sake of keeping the ball. I don't know what you think as Chelsea fans, but at Leicester, it was a hard watch.
Well, it is. Chelsea are. I think he's started to improve a little,
right?
Just a little. But I remember going. Sorry to tell this story again, Sam, but I remember going to the bridge a couple of years ago and watching Chelsea play, and I was sitting on the table in the Osgood Suite, and I was sitting on a table with a big Chelsea fan, a lunatic Chelsea fan, and we come in at half time, and Bournemouth, I think it was 0-0. Bournemouth won the game eventually, and he went, that was rubbish. And I went, well, why do you think it was rubbish? He said, well, he says, we passed ball too much. I said, no, the problem you got is all your defenders are getting more touches than your forwards. Yeah. And you're passing the ball about in the back four and right across the back, me and you are in midfield, we're just going to say, keep doing it, haven't we? Until we get, it's ridiculous. And Bournemouth end up winning the game we coming after, and it was simple. But they're not even tactics. It's just I really don't get how defenders can do that.
Well, the idea is you have your most creative players further forward on the pitch. You have a number 9. Well, I know number 9's now becoming a rarity. There's not many of them about neither. Wingers now ain't wingers; they're inverted wingers. They come in off the line, and you don't see anyone now go down the outside and put crosses in anymore. So there's a lot of positions now that don't really exist as well. Even a box to box midfield player that's not that's not really a position anymore. It's more of a, you know, they stay behind the ball. They feed it wide. They feed it sometimes forward. Yeah, it's changed a lot. It's you never now get the fullbacks never now get the ball and look up and try and look to see if a centre forward's making a runner. You never see that pass anymore. I'm trying to think of the last time I saw it. I'm trying to think of the last time I saw a winger go down the outside of someone and put 3 or 4 crosses in. Don't happen anymore.
Yeah. I think the best in the country of making them kind of runs, the only player that, and when he didn't play in the Euros and I kept screaming for him to be picked, because Harry Kane had a nightmare, is Ollie Watkins.
Yeah, he's perfect for it.
Yeah, you know, you'd love him in midfield. You know, you go to give it one way, you knock it there, then he's in, isn't he? You know, and I don't care if it's a modern day game or years ago. That's still on, as you say.
Well, the idea, Al, is to stretch teams as well, isn't it? You want their back four turned round, running towards their goal, because what it enables your midfield to do, if the back four all of a sudden go, oh blimey, Jamie Vardy or Ollie Watkins going to run in behind, they drop off a lot. So as they drop off, the midfield area becomes a lot more vacant, and you can go in there and have a little bit more room in there to play. But
Absolutely.
at the minute, everyone's compact in each other, and it's just like a game of keep ball, you know. And no one really goes. It's like a game of chess, and it's just sideways, backwards, and it's trying to score the perfect goal. And unless you've got the best players, you ain't going to do it.
Yeah. While you're talking, I'm just thinking, why don't they offer you any TV work to go on the matches or?
You know what? I've done a bits and pieces over at Leicester, but it's all, I don't know. They've got like their own TV channel, a bit like Chelsea, and they're all under contracts to play people that work up. I've got other things. I like being in a pub on a Saturday, Al. You know what I mean? Don't want to be at a football ground.
Muzzy, tell us a bit more about your Leicester team that you were such an integral part of. I mean, you had a great midfield combination with Neil Lennon, I recall.
Yeah, I think the whole team was on the same page. That's the best way to describe it. We all knew our roles and responsibilities because we had a good manager that made it nice and simple for us. But on and off the pitch, we done things together. You know, we stuck together. I think good teams are built on that. I think whether it was a Tuesday or Wednesday night, you had to go out and have a few beers with the boys. And people say, oh, you shouldn't go out the weekends if you lose or whatever. Oh, no, I get that. But the way we looked at it was we'd won a few things. We'd earned, for a team the size of Leicester back then, I think our record signing was £2.5 million. So, and that was centre half. That was Matt Elliott. And to get in 3 cup finals in 4 years was quite an achievement for a club of the size of Leicester. So I think we we was always top 10, never sort of in a relegation battle. I think one year we finished 7th or 8th, but we never really had that. We needed that centre forward that can sort of get you another 10 more goals, because another 10 more goals could be 10 more points. And you can go from 55 to 65 points, and all of a sudden you're in the top 6. But we never quite had that. You know what I mean? Back then there was a lot of centre forwards, but they was all at the biggest clubs, and the biggest clubs had 4 or 5 of them. If you look back at Man United, they didn't have just a number 9; they had 4 number 9s, and so did Arsenal, and so did, Chelsea's and all that. So all the best players were at the biggest club. So we had Tony Cottee, who was great for us. We had Steve Claridge, that was great for us. We signed Stan Collymore, that he came and he was brilliant. But if you want to really get into the next level of football, you've got to have a number 9 that gets you 20 plus goals a season, and we didn't quite have that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And that still stands, doesn't it?
Oh, mate, you're only as good as your number 9, in my opinion. That's that's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Who were the big characters in that Leicester team of yours?
All of them. They was all. So like we had Tim Flowers. He won the league with Blackburn. Great bloke. Huge character. Led from behind. He sort of organised the back four like you'd expect your goalkeepers to do. And then there was Matt Elliott, great bloke, leader.
That's sorry, but Matt Elliott was a Fulham. Did he come from Fulham?
He came from Oxford.
But I see is that same day I come to the game when you played I was standing outside where the buses stopped, and his dad was standing there.
Yeah.
And I knew his dad from the Lord Palmerston in Fulham. I see him all the time in there. And
Oh, really?
I never knew it was his son. And I went, "What are you doing here?" I said, "You're not a Chelsea boy." He said, "No, my boy's playing for there." And he mentioned his name because I thought he was a top player. I thought, you know, he really was a player for you, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a cultured centre back. You know, you could then stick him up front last 20 minutes, and he could play up front. He could hold it up. He could, you know, he had good movement. You had Steve Walsh, who was the captain, who was, you know, Mr. Captain Fantastic, if you like. He was courageous, leader on the pitch, leader off the pitch. There was Neil Lennon, there was myself, there was Savage. We had Big Emil up front as well, Heskey. Steve Guppy on the left that used to put lovely crosses in so you could get on the end of things. So we had a good mixture of players. You know, we had Frank Sinclair, obviously, he came from Chelsea.
Yeah.
He didn't mind a night out. Yeah, so we had we called ourselves a bit of a pub team. Do you know what I mean? Because majority of the times we was in a pub, but we all got on well on the pitch. We all worked hard on it and off it. You know,
There's nothing wrong with being a pub team, Muzz.
No, they're the best.
Absolutely. No, but the TV thing does. Well, it doesn't astound me. It amazes me. But how about your international career? What happened there?
Well, it was at the time I was being touted for England. I'd started off. I can't remember what season it was. 2000 maybe, 99, something like that. I can't remember. And I'd started scoring a few goals early on, and you know what it's like, how you score goals and your team wins, you start to get a little bit more recognition. You know what I mean? And I did. I think I scored in the first four or five games. I think I won Player of the Month or something like that. And all of a sudden, the name gets talked about for England. I was like, oh wow, that came out of the blue. And at the same time, Turkey was interested, and because my dad's Turkish, my mum's English, I could play for both. I looked at England, and at the time there was a lot of midfield players in there. You know, at the big clubs, you had your Gerrards, your Lampards, your Scholes, your I think Gaza, Ince. There was loads. You know what I mean? There was all sort of circling around, and I sort of said to my agent, "What do you reckon?" Because he knew. I think it was Kevin Keegan at the time. He said, "Well, I'll have a chat, and I'll have a chat with him and see what he thinks," because I didn't get called up for the squad. And he said, "Look, there's so many midfield players. Even if he got in the squad, realistically, I've got all these players to choose from." So it sort of made my mind up for me. So I went and played for Turkey, which I absolutely loved. But I didn't speak the language, and that was a massive issue, you know. To be in and around, you're in a different culture. I understood the culture because, like I say, half of my family are Turkish. But when you're in it and everyone's talking in a different language and not many of them spoke English, it was tough, but enjoyable because they were great lads. They were still trying to make me feel welcome and, you know, including me into stuff. But a language barrier is a big problem, isn't it? You know, if you ain't got that, especially on a football pitch and off the pitch, if you can't communicate, then it becomes hard. But enjoyed every minute of it. You know, played in the World Cup, played in the Euros, so I can't argue. I can't argue with that. They were, you know, good times.
Well, mate, I think you made the right decision because I think I often wish I was born with somebody else's, you know, nationality. You know,
yeah.
A little bit of Spanish in them or something, a little bit of German or French, you know, that'd have done me.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Well, it's I think England is, you know, it's been a terrible thing over the years, the kind of people they've left out and gone. As you've just mentioned something that they always pick the the players from the top teams and all that. That happened for so long, didn't it? You know, and
It did
you know,
back then. Yeah,
I
it
played,
did.
yeah, but no, even before that, Muzz, you know, at Stoke in '74, there was 2-3 players in the Stoke team would have walked in the England team, but they never get noticed. You know,
No.
Leicester, Stoke, you know, Forest, you know, all
Yeah.
round there. And we had young Dennis Mortimer on last year, and he's, you know, they won the European Cup
Yeah,
without one international in the team. So how does that go?
I know.
That tells a story, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
I know. It's crazy, really. I see Martin O'Neill a couple of weeks ago, and we was at a party with Steve Guppy's wife, talking about John Robertson. Do you remember John Robertson, the winger?
Yeah, he's a mate. He's a good friend. Yeah,
Oh,
loved him.
great. He's a bit poorly at the minute, I think.
Oh,
So,
was
yeah, send him the best wishes if you speak to him. He's, you know, people like that around you. When we was at Leicester, where I had John Robertson there, you had Martin O'Neill there, both won 2 European Cups. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Absolute remarkable football players. And Steve Walford, that was our first team coach, and they was a reflection of us, or we was a reflection of them. They were that type of, you know, John Robertson was a genius with the ball. He was an absolute
absolutely.
fantastic football. He used to join in and do young be old on a Friday afternoon when we used to play, and he was still the best player. And he had
Yeah.
two knee braces on, and he smoked 40 a day and
Yeah, I know.
drank whiskey all the time, mate. It was brilliant. And he
Well,
sort of looked. Go on,
yeah,
mate.
yeah. No. I'll just, you know, when you talk about people like that, you know, it's actually, when I bumped into him in the bank, I said about mate. I said, you saved his life.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah,
He saved his life when he gave him a job, because
Yeah.
he come up to the coaching school. You know, John, great fella. We had a game before, and he was, as you say, he was always the best player. You know, they couldn't stop. He was unstoppable, wasn't he? You know.
he was a. It was weird because he was only little, short,
Yeah.
stocky fella, but he had a turn of pace over 5 yards. He'd drop a shoulder, and you
Yeah.
couldn't defend against him. And he was like doing that against Premier League players, and he was in his late 50s. And
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, honestly, absolute. And when he told you was a good player, you listened. Do you know what I mean? And the advice he gave, you'd be like, blimey, John Robertson thinks I'm a decent player, or whatever it is.
Well, yeah.
And that was another thing, going back to the Leicester days. That was the culture at the club. You know, you had these people around you that you looked up to, that you admired, that you had a lot of respect for, that created this sort of amazing atmosphere for you. You know, it was a joy to go in every morning and train. You know, football, when you're in a club in an atmosphere like that, or when you're playing football, it's not work. It's fun. It's just absolutely, it's a privilege.
Yeah. And I think what you said about we both know John Robertson, and hopefully he's all right. He's a lovely bloke. But if you got him on the coaching pitch every day, and he turns around and says you're a good player, you take notice because you know you're so alike as well. Because he likes to go and have a drink, you like to go and have a drink, but you go in some clubs. I mean, it's not about the drinking; it's being a social animal, isn't it? You know, never went down well at Chelsea. You know, that was, you know, you've got a black mark against you. But you're in trained every day, and it was all too serious. You know.
Yeah.
It weren't enjoy, and you know, and then go and have a good time. It was, you know, I've told stories about, you know, David Webb coming one day and his breath smelt terrible, you know, and we said, "What were you at last night?" He went, "No," he said, "I had a few," he said, "but I'll always get in the car and bite on some garlic." "What do you do that for?" He said, "Well, Dave smells your breath when you come in, you know, sex." So that was what you were faced with every day, and that was where it all went wrong. You know, you couldn't really. Every day was not. You know, we had a great fun. Our team had great fun, but you had to do it out of the way. You know, and where Martin and John Robertson will understand, they wouldn't. Waddington understood. Have a good time, you know, and football is a social game, isn't it?
Well, what they asked for was commitment from everyone. If you went out there and you put everything on the line, and you know, the amount of times you'd have to, most people did, but you played with injuries, little knocks, and they appreciated that. Do you know what I mean? You'd get a big strap and put it around your ankle, and out you went, or you'd have an injection and out you went, and all that sort of stuff. But you felt you had to do it because that was the spirit of the team. You know, we're gonna stick together. All right, you might only last 30 minutes, but that 30
Yeah,
minutes might win us a game. You know, that was what it's
yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah.
Looking back at your time at Leicester, I mean, you mentioned it earlier. You got to 3 cup finals, I think, in 4 years.
Yeah,
Were the cup finals a highlight of your time there?
yeah, yeah. They obviously playing in Europe a couple of times were good. But it was, like I say, I enjoyed for the first 4 or 5 years I was at the club. They were magical times. They weren't good. They was like, we got promoted the first year I went there, got into the Premier League, won the League Cup that first year in the Premier League, beat Middlesbrough, you know, when they had Janino and Ravanelli and all that. Beat them in the cup final. I think we finished 9th. You know, we were favourites to go straight back down, but we finished 9th, won a cup, and then that qualified us for Europe. So it was just everything sort of happened really fast. And like I say, for the first 5 years, every day was a highlight. You know what I mean? You're a professional footballer. You're doing something you loved. You had a group of lads that you connected with, a manager and staff you had that same connection with. And it was joy. You know, it was only when Martin left and you experience other managers coming in, you think, oh God, here we go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Muzz, it's all about the manager, isn't it? It's all everything. You know, it all starts at the top. It's all about management, and if you know what you're doing, even if you go up the rails, you know, he understands. You know.
Yeah, it was a new manager comes in with fresh ideas, a new first team coach, and they want to implement their ideas. And I think the first time it happened, Martin left and Peter Taylor came in, and he got rid of a lot of the senior players, and it absolutely tore a hole in the club. It literally tore the spirit out of the club. And it took a long time for it to recover, a long time. You know, we got, after that we got relegated twice. I left, and then, you know, it took years later for them to bounce back into the pro. Obviously they won it, which was incredible in itself, but you know, the wrong appointment in a club can absolutely send you backwards.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
You look at Man United. You know, Man United are a great, you know, thingy to look at. They just can't get it right. You know, the biggest, one of the biggest clubs in the world, and they can't get it right with an appointment.
Yeah.
I think didn't Martin O'Neill go on to Celtic after he left Leicester? Were you ever close to following, bearing in mind the impact he had on you? Were you ever close to following him to Celtic?
Well, it's a weird one because I've seen him a few times since he's obviously left, and he heard the rumours like of me going back to Chelsea. Chelsea actually came back in for me to go back just before they signed Frank. So there was rumours. I was like, well, you know, when you leave a club, and I left the club like, for as much as I enjoyed it at Chelsea, because I grew up there as a 12, 13-year-old kid, going back into that environment of not being that play, you know, it was just, I didn't want to be back in that environment of what things that had happened. Nothing bad, but it was a struggle for the last 2 or 3 years of my career at Chelsea, and I didn't want to go back into that environment, you know. So I turned the offer down. It wasn't, they wanted me to go on a free. They wanted me to go on a free transfer. But listen, they signed Frank Lampard. They, you know, arguably the greatest ever signing they've ever made, you know, with the goals and everything else. So they'd done the right thing. But it was, when he went to Celtic, I think he thought I was going to go back to Chelsea, and I didn't. And then, you know what it's like. They did have good midfield players. Maybe didn't need any midfield players at that time afterwards. I think he tried to get Matt Elliott to go up there. Matt Elliott didn't fancy it. And I think after that, did he go to Aston Villa after that, Martin? I think he went Villa. But he was like, it's one of them things that I think I worked under Martin. He was certainly at his best. And I think he done great at Celtic. And there's an argument he done great at Villa. and he can't now get a job because he's seen as playing a certain type of football. You know, I think that's another thing that's happened to these managers. Whether you like people like Sam Allardyce or them type of managers, they got results playing a certain type of football that suited the players that they had, and I think that's what people don't understand. You can only play a certain type of football with the players you've got, and if you're trying to ask players to do stuff they can't do, then you're going to struggle. And that's, everyone's trying to play the ball out from the back. Most of the teams can't do it. And you see some of the goals look like they're playing over Ratney Marshes.
Well, they're not playing the back; they're playing 1-2s with a goalkeeper, aren't they?
Yeah, I just find it mind-boggling that they'll keep persevering with it. And I think a lot of it is to do with snobbery from the coaches. I think they think if they're seen playing another type of way, they'll never get another job because they'll go. Chairmans are different now, aren't they? There's no chairmans now that used to own a bloody car garage or anything, or own a pub or what. These are now billionaire chairmans, and they want a certain type of brand of football to market their football club, and they need to be seen to be playing a certain type of brand of football. So I think that's another thing that's changed massively in the game.
Who do you enjoy watching today? What team? Anyone in particular?
What teams now?
So you could actually sit down or see a game on. You got these channels. You got the channels where you can watch any game on a Saturday. Who would you sit down and say, I might watch a game today? I fancy watching that.
I tell you what I enjoyed watching. I enjoyed watching Liverpool under Klopp. I enjoyed watching that Liverpool team. I thought he played a little bit different. He played a little bit longer. He mixed it up a bit. They played a high press game, a fast game. I enjoy that type of football. That's honestly now, mate. I don't think I barely watch football these days. I barely.
I can understand. I can understand the reason why, but I do it because I like to gamble almost. But but I go. My mate's got a pub in Fulham there. One of my great friends, and there's a Brentford supporter in there. Good lad. He's in there every day. He's a good lad. They're a good team, mate. I can watch them.
Who, Brentford?
Thomas Frank.
Yeah, to be fair, Brentford are decent. Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen now. He's gone to Tottenham. I mean, it's the most weird thing of all time. What he was doing at Brentford, he's got them Scandinavian lads coming. They all play the same. They're all and this exactly what you're saying. They don't just knock it short. They knock it long. They got them that Whizzer and Buono. They chase everything, and they're hard working but great. They play lovely football. I think they're a good side. Whether they will be now with him gone is, I think this could be the undoing of them.
Well, it's like I say, if they appoint the wrong person, I don't know what the new manager's like, but if they appoint the wrong person and come away from what they were doing too much and sell too many players, then they'll struggle. It's as simple as that. They will struggle. I think probably why Liverpool never this year. Klopp leaving, I thought Liverpool were going to struggle, but I think what the manager there had done, he used his brains and thought, you know what? There's nothing wrong with this team at the minute. I've got a load of good players. I can make us a little bit more, maybe a little bit more cautious in attack. They didn't send too many people going forward like Klopp used to do. But he made them solid, made them a bit more organised, and they look a strong team again, didn't they, Liverpool? They look, the signings they've made as well, they look strong.
Yeah.
Arsenal are going to be there or thereabouts, I suppose. They need a centre forward, but that's another thing. You can't find these centre forwards now. There's not many of them about.
No, there's not. You're right, mate.
One part of your career we haven't touched upon, and I know it was only a short spell that you had there, but your last league club was Birmingham.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that time of your career.
Well, we just got relegated at Leicester, and my contract had run out. So I went on a free, and I met Steve Bruce. I really liked him. He came to the house, had a chat with him. They were signing a few players. They signed. Sav was there. Emil Heskey had just signed. Remember Mario Melchior from Chelsea? Mario, they signed him. Jasper Gronkier from Chelsea. I thought, blimey, they're having a go. They had David Dunn there in the middle of the park. So that's some good players, you know what I mean? I thought, that'd be Matt Upton at the back, Matty Upton. I thought, you know what? But then after 10 games, I'd done my knee, and that was it. I was sort of doing okay. I sort of, I suppose I was playing well enough. New club and everything else. Enjoyed Steve Bruce. I thought he was good. But yeah, playing Newcastle live on Sky, and yes, I popped my knee and never really, didn't recover from it really. Tried to get back a few times, but I just couldn't stop my knee from swelling. It just constantly used to swell, and it didn't go down till about Thursday or Friday. And by then, I hadn't trained at all. So when people say, "Oh, what is it that does you?" It's you actually can't train in the end. And if you can't train, your body starts breaking down. When you try and do something, you start getting all little niggles all over your body, and you just can't do it.
I know. I understand that, mate.
Yeah. But, I've got to 31, 32. At one point in my career, I didn't think I was ever going to be in anyone's first team. So you count your lucky stars, that I had sort of 11, 12 years in the Premier League. So I can't grumble with that.
No, it's great. You've had a good career, mate. It's just, it's, as I say, I can't believe why Chelsea let you go, but that's another matter. It's a matter that's it's a bit baffling all round. But
if you had your time again, would you hang on a bit more longer at Chelsea to see if you got the chance?
No, I think looking back, I think I made the right decision. To be honest, I think I've been at the club a long time, and you can get a bit stale as well, can't you? You're just sort of comfortable in your surroundings, and I was like, you know what, I need a new challenge. I need to get into the first. I want to play first team football every week. I can't be a bit part player, or So no, looking back, I think I made the right. Shame it didn't work out for me at Chelsea, but it doesn't always work out, does it, in life? So you got to move on and go somewhere else. That's what life's all about, moving on.
Absolutely.
Westy taught you that, didn't he?
Westy, yeah, he wanted me to play for Tipples. He did. That's all he ever talked about.
Well, you got to tell everyone who you're referring to when you say Westy.
Well,
yeah,
the reason we're mates, me and Muzzy, because I moved over to East London when it all went pear-shaped in Chelsea. I met a girl and moved over there, and when Johnny Westwood, who is Shotgun Johnny, was great mates with Muzzy, and they were. I'm gonna say that most of the time I fell out with my missus. She says, when we had a ruck, she said, "You don't even belong over here." She said, "You belong over Chelsea way." I said, "Don't worry about that, mate. I love it over here." And I loved it over there, and with Johnny and Chrissy Gibson and all that lot, and a little bit down the Roman and you boys. It was great lads. Joey Moran was here the other day.
Was he?
Yeah, well, my nephew, Billy Hudson.
Yeah, I know Billy.
Billy he was at Tottenham for a little while. He got married in Ibiza.
Oh, lovely.
And Joey Moran was over there. And I reckon he stole the show, Joe.
Oh, he steals it everywhere he goes, doesn't he, Joey? Blimey. So all these lads that he's talking about, they used to play for so there was all mates with my dad. So Westy, Joey Moran, Chrissy Gibson, all them lot used to play for a pub team called Tipples, the Tipples, and that was at the top end of Bethnal Green. Do you know where Bethnal Green Station is?
Bobby Moore had that pub once, yeah?
Yeah, the pub, it used to be called the Salmon and Ball, but it used to be called, mate, everyone knows it as the Tipples. And they had a good pub team. They had a player called Johnny Davis that used to play for Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah. And he got kicked out. He started off at Arsenal, went to Sheffield Wednesday, fell out of love with the game and signed, believe it or not, for Tipples because he was from East London and he was a pro. So he was like, obviously, they're number 9. So they had a centre forward up front that was an ex-pro. So he said they had great times. And that's how I became, because I used to go and watch them all the time. My dad used to take me. So blame my dad. That's the reason why I'm always in a pub.
No. I find it very refreshing that, those were the times. And if you're going to have a career like you've had, like 12 years in the Premier League and live your life like that, it just tells you that all this other side of the game. And you know, I'm so anti that. I always said wherever I went, I always told the youngsters wherever I were, go and have a good time, but tomorrow morning when you get in, you work harder than anybody.
That's it.
And that's the key. That's the key. It's not going out. It's going out and not putting it in, as you
Exactly.
say, you know. And Stoke the manager at Stoke, he didn't bother where you were. He didn't bother. As long as you there on Saturday, giving him exactly what you just said, you gave him 110%. He didn't care what you were drinking. He liked to drink himself anyway.
Who was your manager? Who was your manager at Stoke?
The manager was Tony Waddington, who's Tony's fed up with hearing about. He likes Chelsea managers. But yeah, he was the manager of my dreams. You know, you come across like probably Martin with yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you could talk to him and you could like having a friend. I mean, he become my best friend in Stoke, really. It was unbelievable. And he was a bright bit. He was an old Busby babe, and he knew the ropes, mate. He knew the ropes.
Yeah.
And he knew you had to have a good time to be a good player, you know, which I believe in.
So do I.
So did George Best. So that's you know,
That's it. Can't get any better than that.
Well, that's probably a good way to end the podcast. It's been great having you on, Muzzy.
great. It's great to see you looking good. Sorry, Tone. Great to see you looking good, son.
Oh, thank you. Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Well, we must catch up again, yeah?
I'm sure we will, mate. I'm sure we will.
I'm sure we will. And keep going, mate. So pleased you come on and brings back a few memories.
I'll catch up with you soon, eh?
Oh, please God.
You take care. See you
Thank
later,
you,
guys.
Mars. Thanks for coming
Pleasure.
on. You were great, by the way. Great show.
Yeah, thank you.